The alpha who adopted me has a severe aversion to pheromones. When he found me covered in wounds at the orphanage, his expression remained impassive. "Are you a beta? I'll keep providing for you as long as you behave." That's why. On my 18th birthday, when I discover my secondary differentiation into an omega, the very classification he despises, I immediately scheduled gland removal surgery. The recent incident involving employees' suicide due to coercive corporate compensation demands continues to develop. The victim's family claims the exorbitant penalty fees stemmed solely from the individual entering pre-rut without proper pheromone control. I quickly closed my phone as footsteps approached. John descended the staircase. Instead of his usual tailored suit, he wore a cream turtleneck sweater. The outfit softened his sharp edges slightly, though the effect remained superficial. Ding. The message alert echoed through the empty dining room. My surgeon's assistant had texted, "Your gland excision is scheduled for 10 a.m. Please arrive 30 minutes prior for pre-op assessments." I silenced my phone, uncertain if John noticed. Our eyes met as I looked up. Those impassive gray eyes gave nothing away. "Spam message." I blurted, pulse quickening. John nodded absently, fastening his cufflinks. "I'll drive you to campus today." The offer stunned me. John's time carried 7-figure price tags per hour. As his ward, every second I cost him felt like theft. Yet the temptation proved irresistible, even if I planned to skip class for the hospital. Just a few more minutes with those angular features. I'll be right there. I crammed the remaining half of my smoked salmon sandwich into my mouth, grabbing my backpack from the housekeeper. As the car wound down the mountain road, his S-grade alpha pheromones permeated the sealed interior, an invisible web tightening around its prey. My fingers twitched toward the window controls before remembering the child locks. Problem. John's deep voice vibrated through the leather seats. Nothing. I dug nails into my palm, using pain to stay focused. Damn my study group's doing overnight prep sessions. I'll stay on campus this week. Post-surgery recovery required avoiding alpha influences. Not that John would notice my absence. His schedule barely accommodated quarterly guardian meetings. Understood. His gloved hands turned the steering wheel with surgical precision, briefly glancing at my white-knuckled grip on the door handle. No other matters to discuss. The question hovered between casual inquiry and interrogation. Nothing requiring your attention. I forced out, hating how easily he dismantled my composure without raising his voice. Lying to this man felt like confessing to a priest while holding stolen sacraments. At the campus drop-off, John adjusted my coat collar without comment. I watched his black sedan disappear, resisting the urge to touch my burning sink gland. The black market suppressants I'd taken that morning already strained my system, their metallic aftertaste lingering like a warning. The suppressant that usually blocks my pheromones and shields me from other sins failed today. Maybe I've built immunity from overuse instead of protection. It left me exposed, painfully aware of how transparent I must appear before an S-tier alpha like John. That unfinished breakfast news report might as well have been my obituary. Every Wilson Group employee learns on day 1. Skip work. Arrive late. Botch contracts if you must. But control your pheromones at all costs. Our CEO's notorious sensitivity isn't medical, it's visceral. Cellular hatred. Wilson Group offices stay perpetually ventilated. Every floor stocked with suppressants and inhibitors. Event planners reserve private suites whenever John attends, lest some careless guest scent drive him away. This isn't preference, it's non-negotiable policy. I'd met that department head twice before his suicide. A veteran who'd worked with John since before he adopted me from the orphanage. If even that loyal alpha met such an end, my throat tightens. Should John discover I'm not the beta he believes, but an omega, his promise to always provide for his obedient child would shatter. The consequences of deception might be worse. The campus coffee shop bell jingles as Lucas exits. He slings an arm around me, the only person who knows my secret. "You look terrible." The alpha frowns. Really throwing away your future for that ice-cold guardian? I shrug off his touch. Yes, even if my entire adoption was meant to mock John. After his parents' deaths, family elders attacked his pheromone aversion as weakness proof he couldn't continue the Wilson line. His solution? Plucking a 9-year-old from St. Mary's. You're my son now. Absurd words from a 20-year-old to a child. Yet he made everyone treat them as law. Sometimes I wonder, now that John's untouchable, how long before convenience outweighs obligation? At the hospital, Lucas lingers as I review forms bearing his name. Rare Omega genotypes like yours get flagged from mandatory mating programs. He mutters, Dad barely stopped them from reporting you. No surgeon will remove healthy glands unless... His jaw works. Traumatic impairment. But the pain dash. My phone buzzes with John's caller ID. A grin. All sharp edges. Then impair them. The screen flashes John's contact guardian in mocking quotes. My thumb hovers over answer. Let the glands break. Let everything break. Nothing was more agonizing than being abandoned by John. Lucas froze for 2 steps before catching up and cursing. You lunatic. I pressed a finger to my lips in a shushing motion, pushing open the hospital doors. I walked to a bench on the lawn, steadied my breathing, and sat down to answer the call. Just playing basketball with classmates earlier. Did something happen? Jean? The word stuck in my throat, tainted by my filthy intentions. Though, truthfully, John rarely gave me opportunities to address him as such. When they'd first brought me home, John had barely processed his parents' deaths before battling corporate vultures. Endless meetings, liquor-soaked negotiations, that cavernous mansion where I'd spend days curled by the entrance, waiting. He'd only return half-drunk, yet still impeccably controlled. Those nights when I'd help him undress were the only times he'd pat my head murmuring, "Good boy." Now between my studies and his empire building, we'd become strangers exchanging gifts through assistance. Exactly as he'd promised years ago, a strictly literal interpretation of providing. The chuckle through the receiver froze my blood. John never laughed. Not truly. Ethan, when I offered you a ride today, his voice turned arctic. The destination was your campus. Your dean invited me to lecture freshmen on venture capital. Wanted to surprise my son. Pity you weren't there. Each word pierced like ice picks. Sunlight burned my skin, yet darkness clawed at my vision. Your school lacks medical facilities. Ethan, are these friends of yours swindlers? The voice materialized behind me. A weighted hand settled on my shoulder. Genteel fury crackling through his whisper. Or is my boy the swindler? Holy shit. Lucas yanked me upright, spewing curses before shielding me. My fingers convulsed around a medical report. Useless to wonder why John would visit this plebeian hospital when private physicians waited on him hourly. John's gaze slid past Lucas, lingering on my jeans. You changed clothes. Flat statement. Of course I had. The pearl necklace was a gift John bought me while we were abroad attending a conference. He took me shopping at a department store. It was one of the rare presents he personally selected for me. When the housekeeper brought over the clothes I needed to wear, John happened to be nearby, leaving me no choice but to comply. Worried about getting it dirty at the hospital, I'd specifically change back at the dorm. But clearly, this wasn't the time to dwell on such things. The medical report slipped from my numb fingers as John snatched it away. His lashes lowered, those impossibly elegant hands crumpling the paper. Time froze. Each second stretched unbearably long. Today's lies had reached their limit. No energy remained to fabricate more. Or perhaps my brain's self-preservation instinct simply shut down under his overwhelming dominance. If John discovered I was an Omega, someone as controlled and principled as him would likely choose the most civilized approach. Offer an irresistible sum of money. Say we should part amicably. No, perhaps not. The outcome might mirror that alpha who provoked his wrath last year. Or worse, life or death mattered little to someone who should have rotted in the orphanage years ago. What I truly couldn't bear was seeing even a flicker of disgust in John's eyes. His expression remained neutral as he opened the passenger door. Home? The car accelerated violently. Inside this metal cage, oxygen became a scarce luxury as his S-level pheromones erupted. The suppressants had truly failed. I caught traces of my own mint scent bleeding through, a fragrance meant to clarify senses now fueling unbearable heat. I never hated this body more. What use was being a prime omega? If John despised pheromone-laced flesh, then this vessel was worse than trash. The car screeched to a halt. John unbuckled his seatbelt, lips moving soundlessly as my hearing faded. He strode toward the mansion without glancing back. My vision blurred, unfamiliar urges clawing through me, desperate to chase his warmth, beg for his touch, fingers brushing my feverish gland. Sudden madness gripped me. Destroy it. Without pheromones. Maybe he'd keep me. Even as adopted father and son, any excuse to stay. Ethan. The bodyguard opened my door, face strained for level suppression. Mr. Wilson wants you inside. Fresh air revealed sweat-drenched clothes. I regained some clarity, only to collapse upon exiting. Sir, the Alpha Guard grimaced. What did you do? I've never seen Mr. Wilson's control shatter like this. Through fading consciousness, I rasped, do you smell anything besides his scent? Mine? Do you smell mine? No. He shook his head, bewildered. His pheromones drowned everything else. I let out a relieved sigh. After composing myself for a moment, I returned to the bedroom to change clothes before heading to the end of the corridor. The isolation chamber. It had been ages since I last visited this place. The door creaked open, swallowing me into complete darkness. I walked blindly until reaching what felt like the center, then slowly sank to my knees. Without windows, the only illumination came from crimson surveillance cameras blinking like demonic eyes across the ceiling. In the suffocating silence, my erratic heartbeat thundered in my ears. Memories of the hospital ordeal resurfaced. Lucas Usker, worthy performance, tearfully clutching the surgical consent form. Dad, don't blame Ethan. It's my fault he accompanied me here. He's been refusing my advances because of your hatred for Prime Omegas. I had to get my gland removed. We're truly in love. Flawless acting. So convincing that when John tore up the document, his regret almost seemed genuine. Pity. This changes nothing. Prime Omegas unmated become government commodities, forced into breeding contracts with genetically matched alphas. I owe Lucas big time. An alpha willingly impersonating an omega? That took balls. Time lost meaning on the cold floor until agony seized me. John's pheromones earlier had nearly triggered my heat cycle. The double suppressant doses now backfired spectacularly, standard fatigue magnified into bone-deep anguish. A whimper escaped as I collapsed sideways, teeth sinking into my lip until copper flooded my mouth. No, can't show weakness. Every inch of this room had cameras. John could be watching right now, hunting for cracks in my facade. But darkness amplified torment. Each stifled groan echoed louder than the last. Suddenly, blinding light erupted. Before my retinas adjusted, that velvet voice purred from the shadows, a serpent's whisper. Ethan. My heart stopped. There he stood, all Maine Coon arrogance and tailored suits. Having witnessed everything, had my spleen actually liquefied from terror? Feeling unwell, John closed the distance, gloved fingers tilting my chin. His touch burned through the leather. Only then did I notice the room's cloying pheromone haze, not the usual oppressive wave, but something darker. Seductive. Deadly. No, sir. The lie trembled out. Stupid. My flushed skin and ragged breathing screamed Prime Omega vulnerability. John's grip tightened to bruising. I raised you better than this. Bull. The sudden shift from velvet to venom froze my blood. What should I do with such a disobedient pet? His thumb brushed my pounding carotid. pheromones coiling like smoke around us. The surveillance cameras kept blinking, crimson witnesses to whatever came next. The medication clashed with pheromones. Despite the pain and scorching heat burning through my veins, a low moan still escaped my lips. John raised an eyebrow, a rare display of expression, before releasing his grip and standing up with that unreadable look. When he leaned back in, the distance between his abdomen and my face shrank to mere inches. His heated breath bounced back from my skin, making me acutely aware of how pathetic I must look right now. John shifted almost imperceptibly, bringing the gleaming metal belt buckle directly into my line of sight. I fixed my gaze there, refusing to let it wander lower. I'd learned early on after being taken in by the Wilson family that beneath John's composed demeanor lurked something darker. He craved witnessing pain. That day at the orphanage, he'd chosen me, the half-dead beta, over healthier options. When the doctor moved to treat my wounds, John insisted on doing it himself, pressing mercilessly into injuries while studying my reactions. That's when I understood how to survive. I converted the storage room myself, installing cameras and filling it with teaching tools. Broken glass shards 1 week, thorny rose stems the next, each lesson carefully documented. He'd always forgive me afterward, personally applying ointment to whatever fresh wounds he created. So when John got angry this time, I came straight here. Now his intentions couldn't be clearer. My trembling fingers fumbled with the leather belt, failing 3 times before his hand closed over mine. "Why are you trembling?" The metallic click echoed sharply as we undid the clasp together. I gripped the belt like a sacred offering, raising it with both hands. "Dad?" John studied the coiled leather in his palm. Or maybe he was studying me, his silence stretching unbearably. Was he your boyfriend? The question landed like a stone, devoid of inflection. It took me several heartbeats to realize he meant Lucas. If Dad disapproves, I'll never see him again. My knees burned from kneeling on the textured punishment mat, body swaying until his palm steadied my hip. "Did you do it?" The leather grew slick in my grip. Class alphas could see lies in the dark better than daylight. We sat together. Best to stick to technical truths. "Please, Dad, let me make it right." I closed my eyes, waiting for the strike that never came. The door clicked shut, leaving me alone in the monitored room. This mercy terrified me more than any beating. For days I analyzed every interaction, returning home religiously despite claiming I'd dorm. But John never appeared, and the sword hanging over my head felt closer than ever. At the school cafeteria during lunch, I had just turned down an Omega's confession when Lucas carried his tray over and sat across from me. "Why have you been avoiding me these past few days?" he asked. "Did John give you trouble after that night?" I shook my head, remaining silent. "Look," Lucas pushed. "You're a top-tier Omega with your whole life ahead of you. Why not move out? If you're into older guys, I could introduce you to some grad students way more attentive than that emotionally constipated guardian of yours." I set down my chopsticks. "Are you done?" My icy glare made him instantly retreat, ducking his head to focus on his food. When he lifted his water glass, I dropped my question. "Know any drugs that can destroy scent glands?" Lucas spewed his drink across the table in a coughing fit. True to form, I'd already anticipated this reaction. Shouldering my backpack, I patted his heaving shoulders. "Do this for me, like I saved your life that time." "And what else?" he rasped between coughs. "Stop coming around. I don't want John getting upset." His outraged shout followed me out. "Ethan, what kind of Omega acts this ruthless?" The tension with John had crystallized into permanent frost, though we'd never been close. His habitual checking calls and messages through assistants had abruptly ceased these past 2 weeks. I didn't dare reach out first. Lucas beat me to the next move, arriving with a gland-destroying serum. "You're really doing this," he pressed. "Once injected, you'll be neither beta nor omega." A freak. That bastard's worth becoming a monster over? I rotated the pink-tinged vial, feeling oddly calm. You wouldn't understand. Truthfully, even I questioned it sometimes. Why cling like some loyal stray to the man who'd fished me from hell, demanding nothing in return? Yet here we were. You could seduce any alpha with your pheromones. Lucas tried again. No one resists a premium omegas. No, I cut him off. John despises scent manipulation. Stubborn asshole. Lucas threw up his hands. Fine. Destroy yourself. The syringe was at my wrist when John's assistant called. Mr. Wilson's hospitalized. I arrived clutching the serum. Now, hidden in my pocket. The assistant explained a project manager's suicide sparked legal battles and media frenzy. Tabloids are weaponizing Mr. Wilson sent a version against him. The full story emerged. The manager had planted a heat-stricken Omega in John's office during confidential data negotiations. John's ruthless countermeasures drove the desperate alpha to suicide, with rivals now twisting the narrative into gender discrimination claims. He hasn't slept properly since this began, the assistant said. The legal victory coincided with his rut cycle. My hand froze on the hospital door. Come again? I asked mechanically. Since you're unaffected as a beta, you should care for your father. The door clicked shut behind me, sealing my fate. Caught off guard, I was shoved into the pitch-black hospital room by the assistant. No one knew. Perhaps not even John remembered. We'd met before he adopted me. Back then, he wasn't yet an adult, and I was much younger. Too young to recall details, only that it was his first rut cycle. He'd been chased, fleeing desperately to the orphanage's vegetable garden. Those striking gray eyes were bloodshot, clearly drugged into premature rut. Alpha ruts breed violence, especially S-class specimens hypersensitive to blood. Yet John used his beautiful face to calmly warn me, I want to kill someone. Stay back. Foolish courage made this grubby child spread his arms. Mister, I miss my mom. The matron said I could have 1 hour outside today for my birthday. Will you hug me? Allah? I'd never known parents. His fine clothes marked him as rich prey. When my fingers brushed his pocket, sharp teeth sank into my shoulder. Blood soaked through my filthy shirt. Later, composed again. Did it hurt? Pain was familiar. I shook my head, clutching stolen cash. His voice stopped me. Keep the money, Ethan. Leave the wallet. The teenage predator smiled, blood still staining his lips. Tracking device inside. They'd find you. The $500 saved me from beatings. But that smile haunted me. Now I stood trembling at his door until his breathy command, enter. Blackout curtain sealed the Alpha containment unit, soundproofed, scent-proofed. Suicide to enter. Assuming John would be hospitalized longer. Assuming the gland-destroying drugs had worked, I'd skipped inhibitor shots. Merely standing here made my knees buckle. Ethan, come here. The silhouette by the window stood unshakable. I took 2 steps before collapsing. John tilted his head, gaze merciless. Crawl. 3 syllables electrified every nerve. My body obeyed before conscious refusal. The short distance felt endless. My nape burned where hidden bite marks pulsed beneath the collar. Unfamiliar heat surged like sun-scorched waves. Though I'd barely attended biology classes, even this worthless body understood I was entering heat. I tilted my head back, desperately trying to see if John had noticed anything. Maybe he had, or perhaps the Alpha in Rut simply lacked rationality. His face showed only tightly restrained aggression, mercifully devoid of much disgust. When I moved closer, John crouched slightly like he'd done in the isolation chamber. His fingers found my feverish gland in the dim room with uncanny precision. The pressure was light, teasingly unsatisfying. He should have used more force. As I thought this, John withdrew his hand calmly. His calloused palm settled around my Adam's apple with calculated pressure. Lucas is an alpha. If you claim you slept together, did he mark you? I felt trapped in a nightmare, one where the bloody truth had been ripped open, yet I remained powerless. My neck gland kept releasing that hateful, minty chill, mingling with the alpha's sandalwood pheromones in the confined space. Such frigid aromas shouldn't intoxicate, yet they overwhelmed reason. My voice emerged pathetically defensive. No, he's not my alpha. Rut-driven alphas recognize no logic. All primal dominance. The hand at my throat tightened as he asked with lethal calm, "Then who is?" "Dad, please mark me." John suddenly laughed, nuzzling my neck in what might have been exasperation or warning. "Not the time for Dad, little one." Heat clashing with Rut could kill. Time dissolved in our tangled frenzy. The assistant knocked twice before John snarled, "Fuck off," silenced further interruptions. When I finally awoke, John's arm locked around my waist, skin scorching where we touched. My neck felt mauled worse than any orphanage beating. But pain from John didn't count as pain. He still slept, long lashes casting delicate shadows in the gloom. Labored breasts, furrowed brow, disheveled hair all betrayed rare vulnerability. The scratches I'd left on him testified to our madness. I never expected anything from John. Loving him, craving him, surviving near his impossible radiance had been enough. Yet I become the serpent in Eden, destroying our precarious bond. I'd known about his rut, known he couldn't resist Omega pheromones, still chose to stay when escape was possible. He'd wake despising pheromones more, hating the opportunist who'd stolen him. I dumped shredded clothes in the trash. Thankfully, John kept spare outfits. Dressing in his shirt, I fetched water to clean him. His burning skin revealed the truth. That earlier furnace heat hadn't been rut, but fever. The assistant's warnings resurfaced. Sick body, yet such ferocity. What might healthy John unleash? Only in this moment did I truly realize how terrifying my adoptive father was. After tidying the room to maintain appearances, I was relieved the assistant had returned to the company, leaving only the hesitant doctor. "Your physical condition, are you all right?" I shook my head. "Please check on John. He's still feverish." The doctor's expression grew more inscrutable. Between a temporary mark on my nape and the pheromones saturating the room, explanations were pointless. My phone buzzed Lucas. I stepped into the hallway to answer. "This is bad." When Lucas came panting into the hospital, I realized his panic wasn't exaggerated. The archived reports were found by my dad's superiors. Now that they know I'm not a premium Omega, government agents are coming to search. "Is your gland?" He froze mid-sentence. Horror dawning. "Holy shit. You've been marked by an S-tier alpha. Damn it. No wonder you vanished for 2 days. I thought you were into John." I thanked my foresight for dragging Lucas to the back plaza. His volume would have alerted the entire building. It was John. He was in rut. I took advantage. Lucas shook his head violently. "Impossible. John despises pheromones. He'd never let them run wild without suppressants. You don't understand alphas. When it comes to claiming their Omega, every alpha's rotten to the core." I started to protest, but Lucas pressed on. "Why send you instead of a beta? Don't play dumb." I opened my mouth to explain, but he cut me off. "That day at the hospital, you think he bought my lies? Alphas smell through bullshit. The way he looked at you, pure hunger. What happened after you went home?" He asked if we'd done it. I said yes. No need to clarify our misunderstanding about doing it versus literal sitting. "Ethan, I trusted you with my life, not my death warrant." Lucas leapt back 3 paces before creeping closer again. "What's wrong?" My stomach dropped. The gland-destroying medication, it's gone. Though, wearing John's shirt, my original pants should have held it. Lucas grabbed my wrist. "Disregarding ABO protocols. Forget the pills. Let John permanently mark you instead of getting government paired." When I stared, He blurted, "Or I'll mark you temporarily." Temporary how? I see. Fever-rough voice sliced between us. Lucas shrieked, "Fucking ghost," before clamming up completely. "John?" I forced the word out, face burning. John strode past me toward Lucas. I wonder what Dr. Brown would think of his son harassing a marked Omega. Should I call the police? Lucas trembled. No need. May you two live happily ever after. Perfect match. Frog marrying tadpole. He vanished before the last syllable faded. I avoided the scorching gaze, uncertainty coiling in my gut. Regret for saving this ungrateful version of myself lingered. Yet I couldn't muster anger. John pulled out a delicate pink-tinted vial from his pocket. "Is this yours?" I meant to deny it, but nodded instead. No point hiding anything now. As I reached for the medication in his palm, John drew me into his embrace with his other arm. Unlike the faint scent from glands, the original owner's pheromones felt overwhelming, possessive dominance threatening to consume me whole. Being John's Omega brought no joy. "Please," I begged, "let me destroy my glands. No sin, no trouble." My voice cracked. "You'll never have to endure this again." His grip tightened around my waist. "You'd have me mutilate my own Omega?" John's breath hitched. "Ethan, you little liar. Still reckless after all these years." The vial shattered in his fist. Blood dripped between our intertwined fingers, mirroring our first encounter. So he remembered. My deceitful boy. John murmured against my temple. "Shall I claim you permanently to keep the authorities away?" His thumb brushed the fading bite mark on my shoulder through fabric. Skin still fever warm. "But you always hated pheromones, adopted me because I was beta." "Never with you." John laced our fingers together. "Once recovered, we'll dissolve the adoption." Betrayal from trusted kin cuts deepest. My aunt colluded with outsiders to spike my drink with inducer at 15. They shoved an Omega into the locked room as artificial pheromones hijacked my senses. I smashed a tumbler, carving my palm to stay lucid, escaping through the window. I stumbled upon this filthy street urchin near the dumpsters. His grime couldn't mask those eyes, brighter than mother's 8-figure jewels. "Get lost," I growled, fearing I'd strangle him in my frenzy. The brat lied about needing help, fingers already dipping into my coat. When I sank teeth into his shoulder, his shocked yelp sounded more bewildered than guilty. Wallet's GPS tracked. I warned through bloodied lips. His comically stunned face haunted me for years. Later, I'd park outside the orphanage, watching through iron gates as bullies shoved him around. The staff despised their only beta ward, unadoptable. Perpetually bruised. That changed when I overheard older kids coercing him to steal. He walked for miles before pretending to attempt theft, always getting caught. The night I finally understood, rain soaked through his threadbare shirt as he stared at my Mercedes. Our eyes met through fogged windows, his still luminous despite the scars. I stepped out, umbrella tilting over his shivering form. "Need ride home, Ethan?" His lips quivered. Decades-old secret laid bare. My little liar had been taking falls to protect younger orphans all along. I sat on a rock for a long time, finally resolving myself. I moved the stone and dug with bare hands until uncovering a plastic bag. The banknotes inside were unmistakably mine, money from my childhood. Raised in an orphanage, most kids wouldn't recognize foreign currency. Staring at the exaggerated zeros, I fantasized this might be a life-changing fortune, the kind that gnaws at your soul. My assistant's reminder buzzed the doctor's office. Returning empty, handed to the orphanage meant inevitable beatings. When the bodyguard reported how brutally he'd been punished, our car was already miles away. Though 5 minutes late for the meeting, I ordered the driver to turn back. He shrank when seeing me appear, trying to disappear among the other children. Thinking I'd forgotten. Playing along, I casually asked, "Beta?" His designation didn't matter. Stay obedient and I'll keep you. Truth was, I'd keep him regardless. Perhaps I do have untouchable vulnerabilities. But when it's you, exceptions are made.